My name is Michael. I'm the co-founder of BackToTheFutureTrading.com. And I want to just thank you all for your time here this afternoon and for your interest in what I believe to be some pretty different ways of looking at the markets that you trade and maybe offer you an opportunity to change what you're doing if what you're doing isn't working really well. There are two products that we're kind of looking at today. One is called Tachyon Warp, and it's an indicator for NinjaTrader, but I just also wanted to let you know there's a variation available for TradingView today that we're going to talk about. So if you're a TradingView customer and you think NinjaTrader is stinky, we happen to love it, but if you think it's stinky, stay tuned because there's a new option available for you at the end of this webinar. We're going to go over it in some detail before we finish here today. Tachyon Warp is an attempt to study time. Movies, sci-fi of the day wrestle really closely with the concept of time. If you're a Matthew McConaughey fan, then you know that during the popular television series, there's a whole riff on time. Time is a flat circle. Everything that's happened was always going to happen. And then McConaughey ends up in this great movie, Interstellar, where the present day dad who travels years into the future is talking to his daughter earlier in the past, communicating with the magnetic field. And so just this idea of exploring the unknown, scientists recently discovered that there is a particle that can move backwards in time. We're fascinated with this idea of timing. And so right off the bat, I wanted you to know that we're the only company, we're the only tech company for traders that's really exploring this red pill option, looking down that rabbit hole and wondering, is there an application for trading that makes it easier? And by easier, I mean have smaller stops, let your winners run farther, and trade less frequently. Those are the three big bugaboos. And it's a Herculean effort because we have to do it in a way that proves to you we didn't have our fingers in the cookie jar like so many other influencers, gurus, and mixed martial art marketing machines. And so one of the ways that we can prove to you that this exists is by giving you access to our forecasts every week. And if you're taking our trial, our demo on the main webpage, you'll see that every week we pass out on that page brand new forecasts to look at that tell us what to watch for. In just 1 second, we're going to take a look at that. So we believe that it's possible to peer into the future and see what the market you trade is likely to do at a time in the future, the direction and the duration. And the way that we prove it to you is by publishing those times and directions in advance, 2 days before the webinar, and then coming back, circling around and saying, how did we do? Did it work or did it not work? And so in keeping with that diagram, that photograph from Interstellar at the beginning of the webinar, we're sort of peering into this monstrous, chaotic, cacophonic chasm of data. See, one of the ways we believe banks are able to get away with this idea of pre-planning trades and movements in the future, is to keep you off balance, to tuck their tiny little trade patterns into a giant haystack full of messy patterns that you're never going to see or remember. And smarter men than me have delved into this and said time and time again, it's possible to find patterns in chaotic data sets, meaning things like the weather that we thought were just roll of the dice, black or red, spin the dial, are actually well-ordered mathematical systems when we peer through the lens of perhaps a supercomputer. Technology companies today use that same chaotic calculator to predict what products you're likely to purchase in the future. What are you interested in? Where do you live? What are your friends purchasing lately? And they let everybody know from Zillow down to Amazon that you're interested in that unicorn costume this year for Halloween. I was going to say Thanksgiving, but I don't know. Maybe you guys have a Thanksgiving with unicorn costumes. I don't know. God bless you if you do. I would love to hang out with you one year if that's the case. And so when we're looking at complex patterns that don't make much sense to us at first, if we leverage technology, in this case, a phone with a QR code, we're able to see that there's actually information in there. And so when we're looking at a chart and we're not really sure if there are time-based patterns, if we set an algorithm loose on them, we might see that in fact 1035 most of the time is pushing the price of, in this example, oil futures higher. And so if we identify that pattern in the future, it stands to reason that maybe at 10:30 tomorrow and the next day and the next day, oil will replicate, even for just a short while, that pattern that it has been putting in place historically. So in this case, we're the interstellar ship, and this is the giant black hole, Gargantua, that we're peering into and asking the question, are there any historical behavior patterns that are likely to repeat in the future? How many of you believe this is possible? How many of you believe that there are times in the historical data that if we look close enough, we'll find institutional manipulation, someone with a very fat finger on the scales of what used to be a fair and balanced economy, where it meant something if Apple missed its sales targets and the prices would fall. It meant something if Tesla missed its deliveries quarter after quarter and the prices would fall. And instead, bad news seems to push prices higher and good news seems to push prices lower. We all kind of sense, yes, thank you, that something in the matrix is wrong. Okay, so we won't stay in the PowerPoint too long. I just want to reiterate that most people who look at large systems like ours and yours, the markets that you trade, agree there is in fact order and patterns in the chaos. So here's where the rubber kind of meets the road. If you look here for the E-mini S&P 3-minute chart, you'll see that this chart was published how many days ago? And if you'll look with me down here in the lower left corner, this information, every pixel on this chart, every white dot, blue dot, black dot, and not to forget the red dots, we are inclusive here. Even if there's only a few of the little bit of red dots, we'll see that this chart was published to the interwebs, the Al Gore internet, 4 days ago. Okay, so if you're keeping score with me, today is Thursday. And so Thursday goes back into Wednesday, goes back into Tuesday, goes back into Monday, which means every one of the pixels on this chart intended to predict what was likely to happen today was available 4 days ago. Now, how many of you are old enough to remember Gene Dixon? Some of you are younger than me, and I am very much in awe of your youth and vigor, and I wish I had more time on this planet. But those of us who are old enough to remember, when you'd pass through a supermarket and you saw the Inquirer, there was inevitably an article related to someone named Jean Dixon, and she would make her predictions for the upcoming year. Anybody remember that? I remember that. And so this is sort of not what we're doing here. We're not doing that. This isn't a Jean Dixon prediction. In fact, it's further from that. It couldn't be further from that. What we're seeing here, guys, is in essence the following. If we're looking at this chart, and I'll blow it up just a little bit, I can show you that every one of these blue lines, and for those of you who don't know, my time zone is Eastern time, not ET phone home, Eastern time. The program is saying, look, when I went back into that cacophonous cavern of time, when I peered into the black hole of institutional behavior patterns, these were the times over and over and over again that somebody sold off the market. Does that make sense, Chris? Mike, does that make sense? Tobias, if there's a blue line on this chart on Monday, it means, hey, when you get to Thursday, it's because over and over and over again, maybe not 100% of the time, but most of the time, enough of the time, there's been a conspicuous move down. And it might not happen again, but what if it does? Okay. And vice versa. Not Jean Dixon. You know, I predict Michael Jackson will marry his chimpanzee, Bozo, this year. No, but rather an analysis that says, hey, when I looked into the black hole, when I stared into the abyss of these seemingly chaotic patterns, I found that most of the time, these signals were producing up moves. And so 12,000 lines of code inside Tachyon Warp are peering backwards and then projecting forwards to let us know on Monday what to expect Thursday. So here's where I start to look a little less crazy and you start to make noises that sound an awful lot like, because when we come out of the PowerPoint and I put that chart here and we look at what actually happened at those times, I want you to see for a second that the times actually line up with what we were waiting for. So if I just kind of come to the right here, I want you to see some of the times, and I'm going to connect them to what was drawn on the interweb 4 days ago. So 1400, 1400, 1400, 324, 324, 324, 224, 224, 224, 127, 127, 127. Can we agree that the times that were published on the chart 4 days ago, Chris, are the times that are actually on the live chart today? That I'm marking the same times we were watching since Monday for, and not making up junk, pulling stuff out of my butt, redrawing, recreating all the fun stuff that the other influencers, gurus, and slimy market manipulator marketing machines do. This is what we said was going to happen, potentially, what the program warned us about. So, okay, now that you know that I'm not faking it, let's minimize this for a second and come back to it and blow this chart up. And I want to just reiterate how early we had the times for, since 1 a.m. So all of the signals since 1 a.m. back here are times that we gave you. Most of you here are from the US and UK, and so we're going to focus on the English, European, and US session this morning. Now remember, all you had was this. And so when we got to these times, the computer would mark where that time we were expecting something to happen with a blue dot above the candle or a white dot below the candle. So in the case of 1051, when we got there and the 1051 signal was complete, the computer would mark that with a white dot below in the instance of an expected buying time. And then, Chris, when we arrived at 9:54, let's say, the computer would mark that forecast in the present with a blue dot above it. Okay, so when we first look at this chart, I want you to think about what your sensation is. Is this something where we're like, that's good, maybe, or, ooh, this stinks? Which side are you leaning on right now? Because when I look at it, here's what I see. I see that 4 days later, we dropped at 539. We dropped at 642. We went up at 603. We definitely went up at 721. We did not drop at 751. We did not drop at 851. However, we did go up at 821. We did not go up at 9:30, and now here's where things start to get really wild. We did drop at 9:54. We did go up at 10:51. We did drop at 11:54 and go up at 12:18. Okay, let's continue. Pull this over. We didn't drop or go up. We went sideways from 12:33 to 12:42. We went up at 12:42. We went down at 127. We finished where we started by 224. We dropped at 224. We went up at 218. We did not go down at 324. We did go up at 345. And we dropped like a big old rock at 4 o'clock. So in the US session, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 signals that were furthest from the forecasts we gave you. 2 days worth for Wednesday and Thursday. This was Thursday. So the farther we get from the forecasts, the harder theoretically it should be. Okay, so let's say there were 14 times. Of that, 1, 2, 2 of them finish when they start, or really don't change. It just goes left to right, no change. 1233 to 1242, 206 to 224. Okay, so 1, 2 of those are absolute abject failures. 2 are failures, do not work, nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. And then we have these weirdos where if you sold at 9:54, it went down. If you bought at 10:51, it went up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them unambiguously 10 did what we were waiting 4 days for. Now, how do we feel about that? Because honestly, it should freak you out a little bit. Because most of you don't trade this way. You sit there and you wait and you watch like an American sniper in the bushes for days and days, making peepees in your sniper pants, afraid to get up out of the chair, watching every tick with every indicator under the sun. You read every book. You went every Watercress, West Palm Beach conference and walked away disappointed, but you met some really nice people. And this thing is saying, hey, when you get to Thursday, these are the buses that are leaving and coming, filled with institutional manipulators. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just some natural rhythm or pattern built into how we behave in nature. But either way, it's just one of the examples that I gave you in the past for the future. Any questions about this? Because if we start to add it up, if you just look at it from a blind trust, right? I'm going to put all the losers over here and all the winners over here. If you bought at 9:30 and got out, you lost $2.50. If you sold here and got out, you made $10. If you bought here and got out at the sell time, you made $7. If you sold and got out here, you made around $2. If you bought and got out here, you lost 1.25. If you sold and got out here, you lost 2.25. If you bought and got out here, you made 2.75. If you sold and exited here, you made 2.5. If you bought and exited here, you lost 2.25. If you sold and got out here, you made 15. If you bought and got out here, you made 10. If you sold and got out here, you lost 3. If you bought and got out here, you made 13. If you sold, basically this was the last candle of the day, 4 o'clock. Market closes right here at 4:10. Let's call it there. You made 13. So if you blindly, John, I look at the close of every bar. My personal approach to this, John said, hey, open or close? It's a great question. I generally after 15, 16 years of watching this, I generally cede to the close of the candle. That generally does me better over time, profitably speaking, than the open. Okay, but if you blindly traded these and said, all right, I'm going to get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out. We got 18, 20, 22, 24, 27, 37, 47, 50, 60, 65, 70, minus 3, 67, 65, 62, 3, 61, 60. Let's call it, just for round numbers with slippage and commission, a net total of $55 times $50 per contract is a theoretical, hypothetical, what is that, 2,500? It's $50, yeah, so it's a lot, right? So Damien asks, do you have a trial? So Damien, what I do, if you weren't paying attention or you just got here, is I give people the forecast times in advance. Everything you're looking at here was something I told everybody 4 days ago to watch for. Sure, I understand that. So when you say you want to stop wasting time, come in here when I start, because now you're wasting my time. I already said this part. You may be part of the problem, Damien. I'm just going to say that. I'm not supposed to make the customers feel bad, but yeah, this is the trial. I gave everyone the times in advance we got here, and it's $55. So that's about $2,500 per contract. if you just bought and sold with no stops in one day of trading. Okay? Everybody okay with that so far? Okay. Sweet. Now, one of the ways I teach to use this is with trend. If we go back and look at Wednesday's times, here's where things get really interesting. I have a 120 period exponential moving average on here. It's just an average. And I teach customers to only look for signals in the direction of the trend. So if the moving average is rising, what am I looking for? The blue dots or the white dots? The blue dots. So yesterday, 8:33, I buy and I get out at 9:15. That's plus $7. The text on here is really small, by the way. I'm sorry. I'll go back and fix that. If I bought, I hit my trail stop right here. I give back $8 of my 7. Then the 11:30 signal comes. I get in and I hold it until 12:12. I get $17 back right into lunchtime. So I make 7, I lose 8, I make 17, which is about $950 per contract. And it's not just the E-mini S&P. I wanted you to see that there are other markets, for example, the euro currency. These were the signals that I gave out for the euro currency futures, which tracks the spot forex. And so if we look from the Asian session through the US session, I want your eye just to see, remember, I gave you these times in advance. So if there's a white dot at 154 and a blue dot at 233, it's because about 18,000 people taking the trial who had access to this had these times in advance. So Damien, if these signals are 4 days old, what happens at 233? What happens at 257? What happens at 406? What happens at 439? What happens at 521? Oh man, it's off one candle here. We'll put a double down at 639, up at 724, down at 806, and up at 903. That's the European session, Asian session of the euro currency. How is this working as well as it is 4 days after the fact? And if you truly understand what we're looking at, then there's no need for you to sit there in a room by yourself and try it for a month. I always loved the concept of a trial. Someone's like, leave me alone with it. I'm going to be in my closet with the light out and a box of Fruit Loops. I'll come back out in 6 months and tell you if I like it. It's just such a tool of the marketing machines to get their foot in the door, to get their feet on the porch to talk to you. Hey, Damien, got a free trial over here. Can we talk to you about it? Sure. You wake up in Mexico in a tuxedo 4 months later, missing all your money. What happened? It was just a free trial. So again, on the DAX, same thing. What's happening most of the time at the buy times and the sell times? The institutions are doing what? What they usually do. And we don't know to look for it because we don't believe it exists. And we see that it's not exclusive to one day. This is what's happening day after day after day after day. The big moves are pre-planned, up at 10:03, down at 10:45. And as far back as I can go, and I'm going back 15 years in my memory, these guys are planning a move and knocking it out of the park and sweeping out all of the stop losses along the way. Let me just also say that it's not just an intraday time frame. If we come out and look at other markets here on the daily chart. I know some of you like to take longer trades. I pulled up oil futures on a daily chart. A lot of you are concerned, if you're a commodities trader, with what's happening in the world now geopolitically. Can someone say, I'm going to turn Gaza into the Sacramento of the Middle East? What are the ramifications for oil? And what you'll see here is that even on a daily chart, these moves that we're waiting for are actually playing out forward into the future. And so a lot of the time we're seeing these moves take place at these times that we were waiting for. So with this chart, here's the miracle of this, Damien. I don't have to do the things that all the other people do with their free trials, because I tell people what's happening in the future. It either works or it doesn't. And so now everything to the right of this white line is what's expected to take place. Yes, Chris, that is correct. And so if we look at gold futures, for example, I have a guy that I know who gets on Fox Business News all the time, and I say, hey, you trade oil and gold. He goes, that's right. I said, here are all the dates for oil and gold. And I gave him all of the future dates back in October. So Paul, think for a second. Stanley, Tobias, Trevor, Valerie. Here's a guy who's on TV telling people all the time what he thinks is going to happen next in gold based on all the old stuff, candle patterns and trend lines and blah, 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 consumer demand, blah, 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 Federal Reserve, ha, 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 ha. No, he didn't. And so everything to the right of that gray line is something I emailed an industry analyst months ago. And so if you look here, you can see the powers that be were buying gold on October 15th, selling it on November 5th, buying it on November 20th, selling it on December 12th, buying it on January 2nd, and then right here we're like, oh, and then we sell it, and then we buy it. And then the last signal was buying gold from January 20th, and where's the next sell date? Right here, February 17th. When's the next buy date? March 5th. You know this if you've come to the webinars each week. I'm saying the same things every week. And then there's Bitcoin. Bitcoin, same chart, same analysis, same settings, nothing different. If you had bought and sold Bitcoin on these dates, add it up with me. Ready? On the close. Buy, sell, 1600 positive. Buy, sell, 7100 positive. Buy, sell, 20,000 positive. Buy, sell, 6100. Buy, sell, womp womp, give back 4200. Buy, sell, 4400. Buy, and now it's kind of ticking down here, negative 4100. So what we're looking at is peering into the future. How far do these times go to the right? March, April. That's 3 months in the future, which means we knew all of these dates 3 months into the future. And Bitcoin keeps trucking along. It's interesting too, because for me, I'm not a bear when it comes to this, but I'm noticing the moves are getting progressively smaller up in this area. They're getting progressively smaller, and where Bitcoin opened in price around 97.6 right here, it came all the way down, and Chris, it's kind of trickling below. Can you guys see that right now? I wanted to teach you about it if you had a second. It's a kind of a neat a neat signal on here. Bear that in mind for a second, and I want to show you something. Let me see if I can reveal this to you. Yeah, okay. So here's the YM chart, and I'm going to compare it to the Bitcoin chart. And if you guys already have the software or you're thinking about it, remember this as a setup because I think it's pretty awesome. This morning, the forecasts for the YM were long at 8:36. Unemployment report comes out. Whee! No surprise, we go up. It's a $61 move. Then at 9:03, we sell. We finish a few 7 ticks lower right there. Now, here's what I want you to see. Watch what happens at the 9:27 signal. What are we expecting? We're expecting it to do this, right, Chris? And instead, there's this sort of slow decay. And the buyers that we're waiting for don't show up. The buyers that we're waiting for don't show up. And so this area under that candle is more occupied than the area above the candle. Can you guys see that? Paul, does it make sense? Mike? Mary, does it make sense? There's this slow decay. If you've ever lived in my house, you know that sometimes we buy bananas and guacamole, not guacamole, the avocados that cost $80,000 now. And we buy them with the best intentions and they sit on the counter and they rot. Well, if you look at the Bitcoin chart, I want you to notice that it's kind of doing the same thing. We have a buy signal on February 2nd, and there was a little bit of interest at first, and now it's kind of trickling down. It's kind of trickling down. And when that happens, and especially when it hits its stop, the stop, which is 1.5 ATR values away, when it hits its stop, it can signal a trend reversal. Because essentially, there are no buyers when, there are no buyers when there usually are. It can't be too good because I gave everybody the times for the YM in advance. So all of the signals here are based on something everybody got 4 days ago. So it's not exclusive to YM too. Like if you look at Ethereum, here's Ethereum, the signals I gave out 4 days ago. And if we watch for those behavior patterns, we'll see it. So Damien, check this out, ready? And this is just one method. If we look at the buy signals in Ethereum today, right? And I don't care if you're looking at Ethereum, XRP, whatever you're looking at, Doge, Trump coin, whatever you're watching, this pattern will appear. Can you see right here, Damien, how 225 we get there and there's no real launch out of that signal? Exactly, Chris. Okay, same thing happens right here. Here's the time that I gave you. And between 5 o'clock and 5:25 Eastern time, it looks a lot like Bitcoin on a daily chart right now. And what it's telling me is the people who normally show up, it's like you're sitting there talking smack with a 6-foot-tall guy and going, dude, when my friends get here, they're all rugby champions. They're going to kick your rear end. When my friend Damien and Chris and Paul get here, dude, you're going to get wrecked. And they're supposed to be there in a few minutes. And you start texting them, Bill, Damien, Paul, click, 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 click. And all you see are ellipses ellipses, ellipses, and then no one responds to you. You're like, oh my God, I'm here all by myself with this 6 foot tall guy that I've been running my mouth off to. I'm gonna get killed. Give me 1 step, give me 3 steps, mister, give me 3 steps towards the door. And so this slow decay is something that I see a lot. And so when the signal is failing, here's something that I'd like you to consider, because it's telling us something. It's telling us that the people that are, I can't type today, words are hard. The people that normally buy here are gone. And again, enthusiastically, the people that normally buy now are gone. They're not here. So what are they going to do instead? They're probably getting rid of their positions. So here's a setup that I want. There are 2 ways to trade this that I want you to bear in mind. Number one, when you see this decay pattern, if it finishes where it started, take the opposite signal, even if it's counter trend. Chris, if we finish where we started or even lower, take the opposite signal, because they're going to do the opposite thing. Hey, is anybody buying? Guys. I have my long contract. Oh, everybody's going to sell, aren't they? Oh, shoot. Even though they just put in a higher high for the stop run. And now the same thing is happening here. And so when that happens, sell the next signal and look for it to close below the moving average. Sell it here, sell it here, sell it here when you see that slow decay. Because on Bitcoin right now, that's exactly what's happening. It's not behaving the same way it did over here. It's not behaving the same way it did over here or over here. Here it's languishing and it's starting to come down a little bit. Compare that with me to bonds and tell me if you don't see that same pattern. Damien, can you see it here? Here's where gold opens up and it's getting lower and lower and lower. And you're like, oh no, oh no. All right, I'm going to hit my stop. But you know what else I'm going to do? Use the same technique I just taught you. Ready? I'm going to go short when it closes below the moving average. And then when am I going to sell it? At the next sell signal. So I'm in gold now. Some of you are having a light bulb moment. Tell me if you're having a light bulb moment right now. When the white one fails, cross over the moving average, take it short to here, and then take it short to here. $3,000, $1,300, más o menos. Same thing happens in gold over here, right? Watch. It's supposed to go down January 9th. It goes down. Whoa, we're right back where we started. Hey, we're a little higher than when we started. A little higher, even a little bit even higher. Wait a minute. Oh, the people who normally sell here are gone. What do we do? What do we do? We buy the next signal. Boom, 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 boom. Right there, gold guy. Right there, bonds guy. Right there, Fox Business guy. I don't have to theorize and postulate and put 1,000 indicators on my chart. I have to show up when everyone else usually shows up and make a decision. And now I know how long to last. So if I sold here, I end up losing 21. And now I buy here and get out there and I make 119. And I'm pretty sure what happened here, trend reversal when it hit that blue line, trend reversal in gold. And so now when's the next time to buy gold? February 12th. And if this crosses above the moving average. See how simple it is when you know what times to watch for? Here's the 10-year note, ZN futures. Damien, look at the hallmark signal. Some of you are only going to trade this from now on. Wow. I opened up, there's the opening price. And for the love of God, it can't close above that price. And right here, when it hits that stop, trend reversal, which gives me permission to do what? To short it right here when it crosses below my moving average. Well, my moving average is different than yours. I don't care. Whatever you use it. If you don't like my 120, use your 50, your 89, your 200. It's all up to you. Okay? And then once it crosses here, what am I going to do next? Exactly. I'm going to sell it on the 29th. I'm going to sell it on the 10th. I'm going to sell it on the 9th until, why am I up here again? Oh, it's in reverse. That's a trend reversal. Now I buy it from the 24th until the 11th. So something out of the educational pocketbook today, we'll call this the slow decay backslash avocado backslash black banana trade. And now that I've called it that, we can't ever unsee it. And so we can look at other markets. What do we see happening on Tesla right now? Here's the opening price, right? I'm so glad we got to do this. Here's where it was when the buy signal kicked in. Where is price this whole time? Right there. When's the next time for puts? February 10th. And when it closes below the moving average, if it does. It's hard to run a company if you're knee deep in treasury data. Liquidity does not move the market. The banks create liquidity. What were the banks doing right here with that giant bearish engulfing candle, Damien? In fact, the guy who first comes up with this was a man named William Delbert Gann. Let me see if I can find his quote. This is back in 1909, before computers were around, before people were lying to you online, trying to take your money and buy their garbage indicator or free ebook, fill in the blank. By a study of the time cycles, you'll learn why tops and bottoms are found at certain times, right? This guy was infamous for his time analysis. And so what's very interesting to me is when you go back, they actually followed the guy around who was teaching what I'm teaching now. And they studied him and they tracked his trades. And I want you to see what somebody said when they watched him. Here it is. We have seen Gann, the time guy, in 16 days, in one day, 16 signals, 8 of which turned out to be the top or bottom of the swing. So Damien, this is over 120 years ago. Same concept, same principles. 50% of the times they're basically saying within inches of the exact high or low. Does that make sense? Are we on the same page there before we go look at something else? If you fast forward 120 years and we go back and look at that chart, what percentage of the time are the signals appearing near the bottom and the top? There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And there's 7. Is it about half the time? Yeah, they're not all perfect, but about half the time, these signals are near the absolute low or high, which is exactly what this person saw 125 years ago. He was the OG. The man who is right 6 times out of 10 will make a fortune. Gann is a trader who, without any attempt to make a showing, for he did not know the results were going to be published, established a record of over 92% profitable trades. Now, is that realistic for everybody here today? No. But these are all times that I gave out in advance. Here's one of my favorites, because forex guys are known for being horrible traders. Forex traders are the worst. They're the worst. They're Cousin Eddie in the Christmas Vacation movie. If you've seen the movie, you know Cousin Eddie trades forex. And some of them are really good, but most of them aren't. And Chris, Damien, if I approach this with Gann's perspective, and I'm saying what percentage of the time did the market go immediately in my direction, right? It's not all of the times, right? But is it half? Is it half of the time or more? Uh-huh. I can do a lot with a half. That's what she said. I can do a lot with a signal that goes right up in my direction right away and then manage the risk on everything else. Okay? Any questions about that? Super important when you realize, hey, all I had to do was sit on my hands. Well, are you using TPO charts and are you using the other thing? No. They ran out of buyers. JP Morgan said, I don't need any more Ethereum. We're all good. Sell it when it closes below the moving average. Sell it again here. Sell it again here. Well, what do I do between 7:05 and 8:35? Make a sandwich, walk the dog, do some P90X, or at least think about it so you feel good that you thought about it. Throw a Cinnamon Toast Crunch box over the fence so the neighbor in the HOA that you don't like. I don't care. I know that the longer you sit in front of a computer, though, what happens to the profits that you made? This is for those of you who are kind of looking at it a little deeper. And I just wanted to show you something. What tends to happen at the green dots on this chart? This is Bitcoin. What tends to happen at the green dots on the Bitcoin chart here? Here's a little food for thought. That's right. It goes up. What tends to happen near the red dots? It either goes sideways or drops, or drops. What if I told you, and I won't go in the weeds on this, what if I told you these buy and sell signals are based on lunar signals? The moon in the sky above us. And what if we look back historically at that? And what if I told you we know the dates for those events in the future coming up? A whole world of possibilities starts to open up when you're thinking predictively, right? And if we look at the markets on different time frames, if we look at the ES, for example, we're not limited to one time frame or another. Here's oil futures today, by the way, on a 1-minute chart. And another example of the banana guacamole setup that I told you about. Not the guacamole, the avocado. See it right there, guys? Isn't going up, isn't going up, isn't going up. What do? We trade it short when it goes below the moving average because all hell is breaking loose. When else do we trade it? We trade it at the 938 signal, the 952 signal, the 1007 signal, and the 1015 signal. There's your daily profit target. All these signals were given out in advance before the market ever opened. But if I wanted to look at oil, let's say on a 15-minute time frame, I'm looking at larger swings and larger moves. If you want to do a higher time frame analysis, for example, hopefully it loads enough data here. I've got about 42 charts open. I think my processor, if we lean close enough, is going, ah, it hurts. Okay, let's not do that. But I can open up a higher time frame and look at those things. Any questions about this as we start to turn the corner and wrap up? Yeah, you can do that, Chris. You can absolutely do that. There's another part of this that that I use called open price lines. There's support and resistance levels. Let me show you what I mean here. Let's go back to our ES 3-minute chart. And one of the things I like to do is enable a feature called open price lines. Those of you that are used to having support and resistance levels, let's go ahead and activate those. And we'll just make them all the same color. All right, we'll pick a neutral color, cornflower blue. Every time a time signal generates, it produces a support and resistance level now. And so one of the things Gann said a really long time ago, let's go back to that quote, right? There's a second half of this. Study the time periods and time cycles, and you will learn why tops and bottoms are found at certain times, and why resistance levels are so strong at certain times, and bottoms and tops hold around them. So when we come back and test that theory, all of these times produce a horizontal line now where tops and bottoms are likely to form. So the signal at 554 spawns a horizontal line up top here at 1.0445, right? And when there are clusters of lines together, there's confluence, and now we're expecting support to be generated there. And now we have these other lines, Chris, where they meet up with the single line and become a double. And so now you have time-based support and resistance. And the way I trade with this, and I do this in the live room, Chris, when I have the signal at 724, I wait until I close above support and then trade the pullback to it. And then I try to get as many lines as I can by the next signal. Right here at 806, it closes up at resistance, right? And this can be a place that I take the short. Over here at 903 now, watch. I close at support, it pulls back to it and goes up. Closes above, pulls back to it, goes up. Closes above, pulls back to it, goes up. So if you're a big support and resistance trader, we can incorporate the open price lines on top. You can see that too in our Chronos. This is the trading view version of the program. It's not as sophisticated as Warp. One of the reasons is that trading view only gives us a certain number of characters to write the code with. And so here with trading view, I have a 15-minute chart. And I wanted you to see that I actually have those open price lines here. And so if you start to like to use those, let me see, there should be a way to stay in drawing mode here. Can I do that? Yeah, you see how, Chris, I'm able to go in here and have those lines extend forward into the future like that? We can build that support and resistance network out and reference those areas for pullbacks too. Yeah, Damien, that's a good question. He wants to know, can you define when the market is going to consolidate or range? One of the ways that you can do that, it's actually a great question. Damien, do you notice here how there's a lot of time between 3:15 and 6 o'clock? And then in here, the signals get close together. Historically, the closer the signals are, or the higher the density of signals, the higher the likelihood of consolidation and ranging. And so when we're watching here, the larger the distance is between the signals, the more likelihood there is that it will trend in a direction. So when there's a large gap between signals as opposed to signals that are in a tight area, there's more room for that to move. It means historically that sell signal is a pretty big one lately. Yeah, no, that's a great question. No one's asked me that in a while. I was trying to remember. What is the answer to that? I don't know. And so the ability to just sort of turn the program loose and look at it here in this example. This is Trump, the Trump coin right now. Chronos is able to sort of do that same analysis for us, right? Only in trading view. And we'll see those same things that we've seen before. There's that guacamole avocado trade, right? Where we have a buy signal and it's going, what do? Sell Trump coin short right there. Now it's coming in, there's our next avocado banana moment. When's the next signal? Right there. And so whatever the instrument, if it's gold futures or Trump coin or Bitcoin, whatever you're watching, this ability to look back historically into the abyss, the large gargantua black hole of seemingly random chaotic movement. These dots are thinking and thinking and thinking, and it's trying to find those patterns that are relevant for us right now, because as humans, we're not really wired to see it, right? And so this becomes a situation where I want to have all the advantages that JP Morgan has. I want to have all of the benefits that Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs has. Let me refresh this chart here real quick and get rid of our drawing objects. There we go. I want to be in that number when the Saints of Chase go marching in, right? I want to have that opportunity to be long when they're long and short when they're short. and sit on my hands when they're not doing anything in particular. TradingView isn't giving me data for some reason here, but you guys get the point. Any questions before we wrap it up? Okay. Just to review, we gave out the times in advance. We came back and reviewed what happened 2 days later. We determined that most of the time that we were looking at the markets, they were predictably and reliably moving up and down in the directions we were expecting them to. We looked at the E-mini S&P, one of the most popularly traded markets in the world, and we analyzed what if we just bought and sold at those times, and we came away with about a $2,500 hypothetical result, including the sell-off today at 4 o'clock. Then we took a look a little deeper into the TradingView part of things, and we saw that there's a deployable product now called Chronos, and Chronos allows us to do the same things relatively as, let's try that, the same things relatively as Warp, giving us the predictive times in the future, giving us the direction of those moves, the duration of them, and then how Damien said the density of them determines if it's likely to chop in a certain area or trend. And for some reason, TradingView doesn't want to give me data, so we'll just back slowly away from that. And now, how do you get it? Here's the cool part. Yeah, go to our product store, brand new website. If you want Tachyon Warp, there's a promo code for you, and I'm going to write it here. It's lowercase w a r p o f f. That's the promo code if you go in here and get Tachyon Warp. So the promo code if you purchase Tachyon Warp is Warp Off. That's going to come with lifetime licenses for NinjaTrader. It'll come with free installation. You'll be able to join our Skype group of users, over 300 users. You have a video training archive with training videos that cover the most basic details up to the more complex techniques like the avocado setup that I was teaching you about today. In addition, there'll be an opportunity to join our live training room. I have a room that meets Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I teach people to look for setups in the market using the software in a live environment. So that is how you get Time Warp, promo code Warp Off. And if you are a Chronos user, when you click on the Learn More button, you'll see that we've reduced the price because it's a brand new release. We're offering a $100 a month discount to people to get on board and help build out that community. Chronos is available if you get this plan for $100 off today at this webinar, and again gives you the ability inside of TradingView to see those same predictive times and directions that we're talking about here today. Any questions about how to get started? Thomas, I have a data feed through a company called Kinetic, K-I-N-E-T-I-C-K. That gives me stock, forex, commodities, and I use Coinbase or TradingView for the crypto stuff. This is what I'd like. I'd like for you to join us. I want you to leave here, Damien, knowing tomorrow you've got a fighting chance. I don't expect you to believe anything I say, so I give you the forecasts in advance. But then I also remind people that people come back and tell us what their experiences have been like. And so if you try to find trading companies that have a good rating, it's very rare. Every one of the people here are people that have turned back and said, I want to let everybody who sat in the webinar know it's okay. Carl and Carter and Venus and CJ, Francisco, the trading gals, Gabriel, Letitia, Rowan, they're all looking backwards, kind of holding out their hand down to you saying, look, I sat in the webinar. I asked the same questions in my head. I remembered all the garbage that I bought and all the mistakes that I made and all the things that I thought would be great. And I'm on the other side of it. And I want you to know that it works. These are all people who sat in the webinar and paid money to use the tool that you're on the edge of your seat wondering if you should do it. Every one of them has a credit card receipt. Every one of them has been trained. Every one of them has their installation, had the same videos. And then just to prove to you, I can't get rid of the bad ones. I can't, if I could get rid of it, if I could pay money, hand to God, on my kids' lives, I'm telling you the truth. If I could pay money to get rid of Alberto's review, I would. I hate Alberto in a biblical sense. And I spent hours and hours and hours with him. He said, Michael, I can only trade from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. New York time, and then I have to go to work. I said, Alberto, the market doesn't move 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. He goes, that's all the time I got. I said, that's not going to work. And a year later, he came back and he wrote this review, and he said, I want my money back, or I'm going to write a bad review. And I put him in touch with our best, most profitable customer. And I said, here, spend time. And he spent 20 hours with our most profitable customer. And then he wrote this review. And at the end of the review, he wrote, by the way, Michael and the staff are great. So I don't know what to make of this. Please read it. Because that's a real review. And I can't get rid of it. I would if I could. So I don't know why that's so funny to me. It is funny to me. I gave you the times in advance. We looked at how we would have lost or made money if we traded them. We looked at larger and smaller time frames in futures and stocks and crypto and forex, and saw these week-to-week daily forecasts keep chugging along. We're beating the people who are professional prognosticators who say all sorts of things about this or that and this report and this indicator and this trend line. And in between the signals, we're living our lives. I don't know about you, but I feel like this is the era of not being in front of a computer all day and letting technology do the heavy lifting. I will be one of the first people to get a humanoid robot, and it will dance with me, and we'll play bocce balls together outside. We're going to do all sorts of fun stuff, me and my robot. But in the meantime, I'm going to trade. I'm going to put my stop loss in, and I'm going to walk away and come back at the next time, because I got stuff to do. I'm 53 years old, and I'm running out of sunrises and sunsets. Some of you have more. A lot of you have a lot less. Do you want to spend your day all day watching every tick, every candle, every trend line, or do you want to lean into this? Know when to trade, know when not to trade, know the direction, know when to keep your stop small, and know when to let your winners run. That's what I offer you here today. All right. That's all I got for you. If you're not convinced, I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you, Chris. I'm available if you need help. Like, this is my actual phone number, 336-703-7667. That's an actual phone number. If you call it, would you please text first to make sure I'm not knuckles deep in my wife's tuna casserole? She doesn't like it when people call during dinner, and I don't blame her. You can also email me. I'll put it in the chat box here. It's my name, Michael Michael at backtothefuturetrading.com. And then the phone. And you're also probably going to get emails and calls from a few people that work with us. These are traders on staff. One's named Drew, one's named David. They are with us. If you get an email or a phone call from David, these are people who've been using the software for a really long time, and they just want to help you onboard and get you started. So one of the three of us are available to you to answer those questions. My phone number, 336-703-7667, Michael at Back to the Future Trading. I dare you to find another trading company where they do that. These guys hide like marmots in a little rocky hole on the side of the mountain. They grab your money and they disappear forever into the boulder field. I wish you success. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine upon your handsome, beautiful faces. May the valleys rise up to meet you and the mountains lay low before you on our journey here together. I wish you community. I wish you fellowship and success. I wish all the things for you that you wish for yourself. I agree with you. Vibrating in that frequency with you together, visualizing with you, seeing your gains, your returns, your wins, the faces of the people who doubted you, showing up at the funeral saying, you know, we didn't know about Damien there for about 6 years, but we all drove here in Bentleys, didn't we? To Damien, clink. I wish those moments for all of you, for the charities you want to support, the traveling you want to do, the job you want to quit, the retirement you want to replenish. I wish those things for you together. I won't stop telling people about this until everyone knows about it and has it. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks again. I love you all. Those of you that bought before, you know how much I appreciate you. Take the lesson tonight that you learned about the decay trade, the avocado black banana trade. Look for it on your charts. See if you can't make a few ticks tomorrow with it, and let me know how it works for you. Otherwise, guys, have a great weekend. Be well. And remember, it's time. Time is the missing element of your trading plan, and you can have it. You can wake up tomorrow and have it, or wake up tomorrow and guess and gamble. There's a better choice, and it's available for you today. I talk to you guys later. Have a great one. Bye-bye.